Hello, everyone. My name is Onur. I'm a two times founder. And so I have a corporate background. I was a software engineer. I used to work for IBM for a long time as a solution architect in enterprise software world. In 2014, I started my first company in travel industry, which was like a zero technology startup. We were organizing boutique cultural tours, like going to Kyrgyzstan, like hunting with eagles, going to Scotland, learning how to make, whiskey, how to play the bagpipe, things like that. I got awarded with my first startup and had the privilege to give a TEDx speech, got featured on TV like multiple times with my first startup. So this lasted for 5 years, and in 2020 I co-founded my second startup, Goimex. We're in the blockchain space, so blockchain crypto in the import export domain. So for those of you who are in that space, please, you can connect me anytime. And since my first startup, I have been, mentoring and also helping professionally the other startups, especially in the growth domain, and especially the B2B SaaS, I mean software as a service startups in the United States, mostly in Silicon Valley. Like a lot of like YC, Y Combinator graduate startups, especially at the early stage, once they get their first fundraise, I help them, grow, increase their revenue, go for the next, fundraising, etc. So it has been more than 10 years for me. I've been also a mentor for Founder Institute over 11 years, I think now, in Washington, London, and Istanbul in those chapters so far. This is great. I mean, I love Founders Institute and I really appreciate what FI does. So that's my quick intro. And today we'll be speaking about growth strategies and especially focused on the early stage of startups because I know, FI is an early stage program, but I will also give a little tips on slightly later stage of growth too. Okay, so let's begin. So when we say growth, growth changes across the stage of the startup, right? So when you think about it, let's think about the investment rounds, right? There is the pre-seed, seed, Series A, Series B, and goes on and on until the exit, right? So and there is the value of death, the famous the product market fit, which I'm going to speak a little more about. So let's say, I mean, when we say the early stage of the startup, it covers the idea stage, let's say until you hit early product market fit, get your first fundraise. Let's call this stage as the early stage of the startup. So the growth activities you do at this stage are slightly different than the growth activities you do post investment. So I'm gonna cover those things. But let me first start with the famous myth about growth hacking because over the past years, a lot of the people, a lot of the founders, especially the first time founders, they think that, there's a concept called, growth hacking, and you will find one hack that will, skyrocket your startup. So like a magical hack, right? So this it doesn't work like that. I mean, um, so there are some famous hacks in the past, and so those hacks, they come as a result of a serious growth process. But especially at this stage, I mean the early stage of your startup, don't think that there will be a magical hack and that will be it, that will be um the only way you will grow your startup. It's not like that. So growth is not exactly about finding like one growth hack. I just wanted to start with this. So what is it about? Yeah, so let's think about the different stages of the startup. And this time I want to give a reference to Steve Blank. So Steve Blank, came up with the customer development process, and it has different stages, right? The customer discovery stage, the customer validation stage, then the creation, and then the company building. Yeah. So
This is what we were covering last night with Chula, guys. And I don't know if you were aware, Brant Cooper was one of our mentors and a friend. So I actually met him when I was the founder at my early stages. So I was fortunate enough to kind of be able to work with him. But unfortunately, yeah, he passed away, I think last year. Yeah.
amazing, huge. Thank you. So basically. So here let's focus on the leftmost two stages, yeah, the customer discovery and customer validation. So here on top you see the problem solution fit at the customer discovery stage, and then the product market fit at the customer validation stage, and then lots of pivots in between the two, right? So the product solution fit is the PSF, and the product market fit is the PMF, right? So the at the early stage, I mean the first goal is to hit the problem solution fit, right? And typically once you pass beyond this stage and hit the early product market fit, get a little bit of traction, that's when the startup raises the first fund. Typically a pre-seed round, sometimes a seed round, depending on how fast it goes. But you need to understand product problem solution fit comes before the product market fit, and the early growth activities must be focused on finding the problem solution fit. I'm going to explain it in more detail now, and I just want to clarify one thing. So this part, the scaling part, comes much later. I mean, typically, way beyond the seed round, sometimes even after the series A round. So this is later stage, right? I mean, not the stage we are talking about tonight. So now the pre-investment growth, how does it look like? What should we do? What should we focus on? Let me explain those things. Okay, so at this stage, my motto is, sell more and build less. Yeah. So a lot of the times, as I said, I mentored several startups over 10 years now, and the MVP. So what is the MVP, and how much should we build? This question comes each time, right? I mean, is it enough? Is my MVP enough? That's I receive this question every session. So the motto here is, build the simplest possible MVP. So I know most of the startups in Founder Institute are tech startups, especially like software startups. So let me, exaggerate a little bit. For me, the early stage MVP should include like even like zero coding. I mean, no development, just some simple solution, even a wireframe, even a mock-up, even like a super simple form maybe. For in my standards, it's enough for the early stage MVP. Okay, so this is the first thing I want to say. So as a benchmark, I can tell you that you should spend more than half of your time at this early stage on sales. I mean, getting out of the building, speaking to customers, and trying to hit that problem solution fit, not developing the product. Okay, so many many times I get this question: how much time should I invest in development? I can tell you. I mean, in my view, like 70% on sales, 30% on development is perfect. But let's never go less than 50% on sales. Okay. So, and the other thing I want to say is the speed is everything at this stage. I mean, typically at early stages of the startup, speed is crucial. I mean, it's all about like speed, 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 and low cost. You don't have resources at this stage. I mean, very limited resources. So with those limited resources, you should run fast and try to find ways how to get in front of your customers, speak to them, collect feedback from them. That should be the philosophy of growth at this early stage. So the three most common growth mistakes I see at the early stage is, like I said, hiding behind product development. A lot of the founders, a lot of the co-founders, they spend a lot of their time developing the product. Like I said, it's a big mistake, especially at this stage, at the early stage. Don't please don't do that. I mean, try to work with your mentors and try to agree on the definition of the minimum viable product for your startup and try to keep as simple as possible and just build that, nothing more, and spend rest of your time speaking to customers and ideally face to face. I'm gonna come to that. So the second mistake is avoiding real customer conversations, especially tech founders. Founders coming from a tech background, like software background, like CTOs or developers. I was one of them too. I mean,
We have some of them listening to you. So yeah, so
yes.
that's a good
So
point.
yes, especially you. I was one of them too. I used to work for IBM. Remember, I was a solution architect, right? So now, as a second time founder, I'm telling, please, spend most of your time speaking to customers, and speaking means really speaking. I mean, ideally like face to face. Don't spend your time coding. Okay. I mean, in my mentoring sessions, I get this all the time, all the time. They say, hey, let me build the product, let me launch this first, then I'll go speak. No, 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 don't do that. First, speak to customers. Okay. So the third biggest mistake I see is not knowing what traction actually means. So, I mean, this depends on the business model, okay? So if you are this depends on your price actually or ticket size, let's say. So if it's a B2C product or B2B product, it changes a little bit. But generally speaking, especially for B2B startups, the sales process is a long process, right? For B2C, it's shorter, but for B2B, it's typically a longer process. And at this early stage, you don't have the full product. You have the MVP. Full sales is not going to happen, right? I mean, it's not gonna be like, you start, invoicing customers. It's not gonna look like that. But then if it is not the revenue, what is it? I mean, what is traction? I mean, what should we focus on in terms of traction? This is the one of the most common mistakes I see. So the founders, they don't know what to focus on. So you need to focus on the early traction signals. It can be like a letter of intent. It can be like a live demo meeting. It can be, I mean, the number of meetings. It can be, number of downloads. It can be number of signups for the waiting list. It can be many, many other things. But work with your mentors and agree on the right metrics to monitor in terms of traction, early traction. So know what you're chasing. Okay, so these are the three most common mistakes I see. So the once again, to summarize the early stage, so the your first job here is, I mean, find the fastest way to reach out to your customer segment. I mean, this can be, as I mentioned here, it can be like an online meeting, it can be like an offline one-on-one events, ads, wherever it's possible. But for me, the ideal is to speak to them face to face, I mean, in person, and try to find, once you define your ideal customer profile, the customer segment, try to find the places, the locations where you can speak to them ideally in person. Okay, it can be visiting a company, it can be going to an event, like in-person event, and speaking to those people. Especially at this early stage, I value a lot the in-person conversation. And let me give you some numbers, because in other sessions they ask me. So for B2C startups, I suggest over 100 conversations. I mean, more than 100 customers. And for the B2B startups, ideally like between 50 to 70 companies, if not possible, over like 20, 30 companies. That should be the bare minimum in my standards. I mean, if you speak to only, 3 companies, 5 companies, okay, it's a good start, but you need to talk to more customers. Okay, so, and of course, collecting feedback. So I'm gonna move on to the post investment stage after this. So, Güç, you want to add anything until here?
No, that's great. So guys, if you have any questions, please put them on the either chat window or Q&A, so we can answer them accordingly when we see fit. But yeah, thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So, yeah, after my slides, we will go on to the Q&A session. So, let's assume you hit the problem solution fit and some early traction, and now you raise an early fund. Yeah, let's say a pre-seed round, maybe a grant, maybe a small check from an angel, something, right? So let's say we move beyond the investment stage, but the early investment I'm talking about. So let's have a closer look at the product market fit definition, and also the level, because I can tell you that even until much later stages, because I mean, I professionally work with also later stage startups. I mean, from seed round to all the way to Series B round. I mean, I work with many startups. So I can tell you that even at Series A round, still, I mean, the product market fit is not like fully like 100% product market fit. Okay. I mean, product market fit it comes in different levels, right? I mean, let's put it in a scale. Let's say, zero product market fit and 100% product market fit. Most startups, even at later stages, they don't hit like a higher product market fit score. Okay, so keep that in mind. So I see many times, early stage founders, they think, oh, I couldn't, hit the product market fit. What am I gonna do? It's okay. I mean, if you hit a certain level of product market fit, let's say 30%, 40%, it's okay. I mean, at the early stage, it's okay. You can even close a pre-seed round, even a seed round with that level of product market fit. Okay, so don't push too hard on yourself. But let's have a look. Okay, so let's have a look at this chart. So on the left side, you see the vision for your company, which is unconvincing at the bottom and compelling at the top. And on this axis, we have the depth of customer engagement. Yeah. So if I mean, if you have a compelling vision, but if you don't have an engagement, this is a sexy story, right? If you don't have a compelling vision, and if you don't have customer engagement, this is deception. I mean, self-deception. So this is where the product market fit comes. I mean, a compelling vision and a certain level of engagement, customer engagement. This is where you hit the product market fit. Okay, but once again, this is not like 0 and 1. This is not like, okay, the product market fit is on or off, like 0 or 1. It's not like that. It's a scale. So at the early stage, to me, like 30%, 40% product market fit is enough. It's okay. I mean, as you grow, of course, you need to hit higher grades of product market fit. But keep this in mind, please. Okay,
The
so
the, the
yeah.
reason of not being so compelling, could it be like the awareness level is low, so the market or the potential clients needs to be educated? Because it's sometimes it is, let's take it, one end of the spectrum, it's a commodity industry and you're providing just another service, but you are creating a good sales machine and that's it. Awareness level is high enough and the market is there. But then it's such an innovative and rocket science, whatever uh, solution that the market doesn't know it yet. So you need to, create awareness and invest in educating the market and whatever, and then it becomes compelling. So is that one possibility, do you see?
Yes, I agree. I also, I mean, give another perspective to this, Güç. So the definition, so what is a startup? I mean, let's start
Yeah.
from here, right? So what is a startup? So to me, I mean, a proper startup is a company that solves an unsolved problem in a unique business
Yeah.
model,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, a problem worth being sold, of course. Yeah. So if you define a startup like this, so just to give an example, like you said, for example, commodity, or let's say I always give this example. I mean, if I start a new restaurant, for example, or or let's say an insurance agency. I mean, is this a startup? No, because it's a well-known business. I mean, it's known how to run those businesses, right? So it doesn't count as a startup. So this is a little bit exaggeration, of course, but some startups they don't have, I mean, the level of this uniqueness, or level of this, like you said, for example, let's take new technology, let's take AI, right? I mean, so if you do, or blockchain, crypto, if you do something like super new, but nobody understands, especially in the B2B context, especially for example, you work with like small to medium sized enterprises, these companies they have hard time understanding new technological solutions. I mean, they don't have too much time following up the new stuff coming up. So yes, I agree with you. So this comes also in grades in different levels. But yes, I mean, the startup, it has to be something innovative. I mean, innovation is in it. I mean,
Yeah.
startup has to be innovative. Yeah, so let me move on. So now, I mean, I define the early stages and the activities, I mean, early stage growth activities, but let me define a little bit, later stage growth activities. I'm not going to explain all of them, but I want you to understand, because to understand the concept overall, I mean, the growth concept in general, I think it's valuable to understand what growth covers. Okay, so typically growth covers these things. I mean, positioning. So, I mean, competitive positioning. Where does your startup stand in the competitive market? I mean, your unique value proposition, how different it is than the other competitors. Okay, so this clarifying the positioning. So positioning is also is a level of clarity, right? I mean, in early stages, it's okay. I mean, it doesn't have to be like fully clear. But at later stages, I mean, as you pass, for example, the pre-seed round, for example, if you want to go for like a proper seed round or like a Series A round, I mean, your positioning must be like super clear, right? So there is a level of clarity in positioning. So this is where growth helps. Yeah, one of the areas. So the second area is the pricing. So pricing comes not only with the numerical, I mean, nominal price, but it comes with, packaging, structuring, the pricing model. So this falls also under the growth umbrella. So connected to this packaging, like I said, I mean, like different price tiers, what should you include in what price tier, the add-ons, what to exclude, what to sell, separately. So this falls in the growth activities, later stage growth activities. Messaging, it's very much important, and this is also, I think, connected to what you said, Güç, just a minute ago. So your messaging needs to be super clear, but this also comes in different levels of clarity. I mean, at early stage, it's acceptable that your message is not like fully clear, but as you grow, it has to be like really clear, so you don't waste resources. I mean, the less clarity you have in positioning, in pricing, in messaging, in your ideal customer profile, you will burn more money. I mean, you can fundraise, but you will burn that quickly. Yeah. So you need to increase your level of clarity as you grow your startup. So the next domain is the definition of your ICP. So I mean, who is your target segment? I mean, at the early stage, I mean, you work with a business model canvas, you define your customer segment shortly. It's okay, it's acceptable. But as you grow, you need to define it perfectly in like full detail. I mean, the later stage the startup is, the ICP is defined in much more detail. Yeah. So this also falls under the growth bucket. And then the so sales and marketing. Okay, so depending on the price you are selling, some business models are more marketing heavy, some business models are more sales heavy. And I see in most startups, these the line between sales and marketing get blurry. And also, as you build those teams, the departments, the sales department, the marketing department, how they work together, how they align, how they pass the leads to each other. I mean, the marketing department passes the leads to sales, etc. So there is a gray area between these two, and growth also connects the dots here. And when it comes to building a funnel, a machine for your funnel or GTM, go to market, creating a scalable, repeatable funnel, a machine, this falls also under the growth activities. So to sum it up, at the early stage, I mean, before you fundraise, of course, you don't get into full details of these things. But as you raise your pre-seed round, seed round, these will be the areas you should be focusing on in terms of growth activities. Okay, so let's also have a look at the different roles. I mean, who has what role in growth in your startup? So this also comes to me a lot. I mean, who is the owner of growth? And it is always the CEO. I mean, CEO owns the growth. That's it, right? So the thing is, at the early stage, at your stage, the idea stage, pre-investment stage, okay, the founding team, the CEO has the time to spend on growth. And as I explained before, I mean, you should spend all your time to hit the problem solution fit, get out of the building, speaking to customers. And this is the CEO's job at the early stage. But once you grow a little bit, the CEO starts to have a lot of different things to do. I mean, uh, finding capital for the company, representing the company in the external world, hiring, solving crisis, a lot of different things, right? I mean, the CEO's duties increase as the company grows, but the ownership, the growth ownership, still stays with the CEO, right? So now, how do you overcome? I mean, how does the CEO overcome this problem? I mean, how does he or she delegate growth activities, and to who, right? So, and growth is a cross-functional work. So I told you, I mean, I explained all of these things. I mean, the positioning, messaging, pricing, ideal customer profile. So this, a lot of these things, they fall under marketing, most of the marketing, sales, and product. I mean, these three departments are involved in growth activities. I mean, if I have to give a percentage, I would say maybe like 50% goes to marketing and maybe like 30% goes to sales and 20% goes to product. That will be a typical responsibility distribution in a startup. So in the past, I mean, in the last maybe like 10 years, mostly the marketing people, I mean, head of marketing was owning growth activities in most startups in the past. But nowadays it's changing a little bit. So the ideal scenario I see in startups is at the early stage, if the company doesn't have the resources to hire a dedicated, like a growth resource, I think the best thing to do is to dedicate someone in the team, maybe the head of marketing, maybe the head of sales, or maybe someone else, somebody from the product, or maybe one of the co-founders, maybe the COO. I mean, dedicate someone as the head of growth, like an interim head of growth. I mean, have someone being responsible for the operational activities of growth. So this person will report to the CEO, but the CEO still owns growth. Okay, so this is the best structure I see. And then at later stages, typically as the startup grows, they hire a dedicated growth resource, like a CGO, Chief Growth Officer, like VP Growth, someone, right? Or this is how it typically works. But you need to understand these three departments: marketing, sales, and product. All of these topics I covered here are covered by these three departments, and the CEO must own growth. So this is all I wanted to share.